Now we are going to discuss about different food additives. Before going into detail, the first thing which comes in our mind is whether it is essential to use food additives in different food products, whether naturally available food ingredients are not sufficient to provide all the required nutrients, be it macronutrient or micronutrient, for a healthy life. Certainly, yes. Normally, normally found food ingredients, whatever is our staple foods like cereals, pulses, vegetables, fruits, milk, etc., are sufficient enough to provide all the required nutrients for a healthy life. But we should consider only one thing, is that daily we should have balanced diet to fulfill all the nutrient requirement. But the most important thing before going into detail is what is food additive and why it is essential. Any nutritive or non-nutritive ingredients added to food over and above the intrinsic material of food to meet a specific requirement is considered as food additive. If we go in detail in history of using of these food additives, we will find that food additives have been used since thousands of centuries in the world by mankind. First reported additive added to food was in 1500 BC when colorings were added to foods. Then in the 3rd century BC, use of artificial flavorings in food was reported. In 1st century AD, use of animal fodder and chalk in making bread was reported. Most important thing is about sodium chloride, that is common salt, which has been added to foods as a preservative for thousands of years. And spices like cinnamon and nutmeg have been being used to induce flavor in different foods, and it have been sought after and traded throughout the history. Food additive in normal language is a substance or a mixture of substances which is added to food and is involved in processing, production, packaging, and or storage of foods without being a major ingredient. That is most important thing to remember, that it is never a major ingredient. Additives or their degradation products may remain in the food after performing its desirable impact for which it has been used, but in some cases they may be removed during the processing. Food additives may be defined as chemical substances deliberately added to foods in known and regulated quantities for the purpose of assisting in the processing of foods, preservation of foods, improving the flavor, texture, or appearance of the foods. As per PFA Act, food additive is defined as any substance not normally used as a typical ingredient of foods, whether or not it has nutritional value, the intentional addition of which to food for technological regions, including organoleptic purpose in the manufacturing, processing, preparation, treatment, packing, packaging, transport, or holding of food results in it or its ingredients becoming a component or otherwise affecting characteristics of such foods. Now, before going into detail, we must know what are the different functions of food additives for which it is used in food industries for production of different food products. First and most important function is to improve organoleptic qualities involving aroma, taste, color, appearance, body and texture of the food, along with improving and maintaining its nutritive value, facilitating the processing and preparation of foods by reducing the wastage and improving yield of the product and enhancing the shelf life of the food. And ultimately, it must enhance the consumer's acceptability of the food. Now comes classification of food additives. There are two bases of classification. First is purpose of addition of these food additives in different foods, and second is source of these food additives. According to purpose, it has been classified into two groups, that is intentional food additives and unintentional food additives. Under intentional food additives, these additives are added intentionally to improve quality and sensory properties selectively in carefully controlled conditions during processing and in small permissible amounts necessary to achieve the desired effects. What are the desired effects? Examples of these are given here. We will discuss each and one in detail. First one is as antioxidant to prevent oxidation of lipids, which leads to leads to rancidity, which is not acceptable by consumers. And vitamin C, vitamin E, selenium, and carotenoids are good example of antioxidants. It is also used as colorants to improve desired color of the final product. An example of these colorants includes carotenoids, anthocyanin, chlorophyll, etc. It is also used as emulsifying agent to stable the emulsion, and its example include agar, albumin, alginates, and lecithin. Again, it is used for flavorings to either improve the natural flavor or hide the natural flavor and add some desired flavor to the final food product. And examples of these flavorings include alcohol, which is responsible for bitter taste, ester for fruity taste, and ketones for caramel flavor. Again, it is used for nutrient supplements for enrichment of different food products to improve their nutrient content, especially water-soluble vitamins, specifically vitamin B12 and fat-soluble vitamin D, and other amino acids, which are limiting amino acids like lysine, methionine, threonine, etc. Calcium, iron, etc. Minerals are also used for nutrient supplements. These food additives are also sometimes added to enhance shelf life of the product in the form of preservatives. For example, sodium benzoate, benzoic acids, nitrites, sulfites, sorbates, etc. They are also used as stabilizers to reduce degradation of the product. And examples of these stabilizers include gelatin, guar gum, carrageenan, gum arabic, etc. Now comes second class of these food additives, which is also known as contaminants, because they are never deliberately added to the foods and find their way in food accidentally as a result of operations inherent to processing, production, storage, or marketing. Some of the incidental additives coming under the group of unintentional food additives includes different anti-nutrients, which hamper the utilization of different type of nutrients, especially different required minerals available in the diet. Example under this category comes phytic acid, oxalic acid, trypsin inhibitor, saponins, flavonoid, tannins, caffeines, etc. Heavy metals also come under that category. For example, mercury, cadmium, nickel, lead, chromium, etc. Different pesticides also remain in the food products which are in fact utilized when raw material of these food products are in the farm only during growing to control different pests and insects. That includes DDT, carbamates, atrazine, chlorpyrifos, etc. Toxic metals also may be present unwillingly, which includes mercury, cadmium, nickel, barium, chromium, lithium, etc. So ultimately, these unintentional food additives or contaminants may cause health hazard and may also spoil the food. Now comes next classification of food additives based on sources. These are three classes, namely natural, synthetic, and nature identical. Natural food additives is naturally derived from natural sources like animals. Please mute your phone. Natural food additives obviously is derived from natural sources like animals, plants, microorganisms, etc. Main problem with natural food additives is that it is difficult to get in large amount to fulfill required need of the food industries, first thing. And because of that, its cost will be much, much higher. To meet that, some of the food additives have been started to be synthetically prepared in the laboratories. The most important thing is with third category of this food additives, that is nature identical, because it is chemically identical to those obtained from natural sources but synthesized artificially. Now we will see various categories of food additives which are being used in different foods for to meet different purposes. First one is antioxidants. As discussed, it will prevent oxidation of different foods, and example of antioxidants includes vitamin C and vitamin E, selenium, carotenoids, etc. Next is appearance control agents, which includes ester gums, waxes, polishes, etc. Next is coloring agents to provide desired color to the final food product. It includes carotenoids, anthocyanin, chlorophyll, etc. Next is emulsifiers and stabilizers as a thickening agents to stabilize emulsion. And its example include agar, albumin, alginates, lecithin, etc. Next is for flavor enhancers. This is used for either to mask the natural flavor of the raw material or to enhance desired flavor in the final food product. An example of that group is alcohol, ester, ketone, etc. Next comes humectants, which is moisture control agents, and its example include propylene glycol, hexylene glycol, etc. Next comes purpose of preservation of the food products to increase its shelf life. And example of that group includes benzoates, nitrites, sulfites, sorbates, etc. Next comes sugar substitutes and artificial agents. This is specifically required for persons suffering from diabetes who has to take low-calorie food products. An example of this group includes saccharin, sucralose, aspartame, etc. Next group comes buffers, which is pH control agents and includes various acids, alkalis, and salts. Next is firming agents, which play a role of precipitating residual pectin, and calcium carbonate is one of its important examples. Next comes leavening agents, for example, yeast and chemicals. Next is masticating substances which increases salivation, for example, gums. Next comes nutrient supplements. As we will discuss in detail later on, this group includes various vitamins, amino acids, minerals, etc., which is used to fortify different food products. Next comes oxidizing and reducing agents, for example, potassium nitrate, nitric acid, etc. Next come propellants and gases. Example includes nitrous oxide. Next comes sequestering agents and chelating agents to stabilize the food products by chelating or by binding different metal ions. For example, EDTA. Next comes acidulants to give acidic flavor to the food products. This includes citric acid, acetic acid, etc. Next comes anti-freeze agents, which reduces the freezing point of the liquid. Its example includes ethylene glycol, methanol, etc. Next comes anti-stick and anti-caking agents, for example, icing sugar, baking powder, etc. Next comes bleaching and maturing agents, which change normal color and bleach it to the the naturally existing undesirable color and change baking properties of the dough by improving glutamine content, by improving gluten content. For example, benzoyl peroxide. Next comes bulking agents, which improve bulk of the product and give satiety feeling. For example, guar gum, glucan, maltitol, etc. Next comes clarifying agents, which removes undesirable substances from the liquid food products. For example, chitosan, gelatin, guar gum, etc. Next comes foaming, aerating, and anti-foaming agents. For example, oleic acid, amide waxes, etc. Next comes tracers, which are used to prevent powder from forming clumps. For example, sodium nitrates, sulfites, etc. Before going into detail about some guidelines for use of these food additives, we must know that food additives are also sometimes used for the evil intentions by the producers, such as to adulterate foods with cheaper materials, to hide adulteration of the food, to cover up the use of faulty ingredients, to conceal damage or spoilage, etc., and to achieve desired effect in very short time. So, to to inhibit all these unintentional, to remove these evil intentions, we must follow some of the guidelines before use of any food additives for preparation of food products. First and most important factor is that there must be real need for use of any food additive in any food product. Otherwise, it should never be used unnecessarily. It should not reduce the nutritive value of the food is also very important factor to be considered. Food additives should conform the agreed specifications. It should not cause any adverse physiological and harmful effects even upon regular consumption for a prolonged period. Legislation should define permissible maximum quantities for a given additive. Food additives should be used at a minimum level necessary for providing desired effect. And additives or their degradation products remain in food, but in some cases, they may be removed during processing. The limit for addition of any food additive in the food product includes an adequate margin of safety to reduce to a minimum for any hazard in all groups of consumers. Second is minimum level, which in animal studies produce deviation from the normal physiological behavior. And the third point is the estimated level of the consumption of food for which an additive is proposed, because the amount of consumption of food will finally define how much additive is being consumed by that person. Now, we should also consider good manufacturing practices for food additives. According to Codex General Standard, the quantity of food additive added to food shall be limited to the lowest level necessary for the desired effect. The quantity of food additive becomes a component of food as a result of its use, having no technical effect in food, and is reduced to minimum, and food additive is prepared and handled in the same way as a food ingredient. Before use of any food additive, first and foremost important thing to be considered is safety aspect. We must know how safe that particular food additive is for human health, and for that we must consider ADI, that is acceptable daily intake, which is the amount that can be consumed on a daily basis for a lifetime without appreciable risk. Its unit is milligram per kilogram body weight per day. That will finally decide what food additive in which amount is suitable for normal health. Again, we must consider various food additives coming under the umbrella of GRAS substances. GRAS, which stands for generally recognized as safe, is a device which United States Food and Drug Administration has adopted to give endorsement to those substances which have had many years of use and for which there is no evidence of any harmful effects. So, safety aspect means there shouldn't be any harmful effect even for long duration of consumption of any additive in the foods in which it has been added. Now we will see about different nutrient fortification as a food additive in different food products. We know that B complex vitamins can be deficient if not taken in daily diet, because being water soluble, its excess amount is excreted through urine. So most of the foods must be enriched with or fortified with these vitamins for adjusting for processing losses or to increase the nutritive value of the food product. For example, fruit juices, canned vegetables, flour and bread, milk, margarine, and infant food formulations. Several vitamins have some desirable additional effects also. For example, ascorbic acid play a very important role as a dough improver in baking and also plays important role as antioxidant, just like vitamin E or tocopherol. Carotenoids and riboflavin, apart from being a very good source of nutrition, also play a very important role as coloring pigments. Niacin also improves color stability of fresh and cured and pickled meats. Here in this table, we will see fortification of different vitamins in different food products. Cocoa powder and its products, beverages and concentrates, confectionery and other baked products are mostly enriched with thiamine vitamin. Baked products, beverages, etc. are fortified with riboflavin. Most of the baked and pasta products are enriched with pyridoxine. Beverages, etc. are fortified with cyanocobalamin. Baked products are mostly enriched with pantothenic acid, and cereal products with folic acids. Fruit drinks, desserts, dairy products, flour, etc. are enriched with ascorbic acid, whereas skim milk powder, breakfast cereals, beverage concentrates, margarine-based margarine-based products, etc., are fortified with vitamin A. Milk, milk powder, etc., are enriched with vitamin D, and various food products, for example, margarine, is fortified with vitamin E. Now, regarding amino acids, all of you know the importance of essential amino acids and semi-essential amino acids. Essential amino acids including valine, isoleucine, leucine, lysine, methionine, phenylalanine, threonine, and tryptophan are very important for biological value of a protein, that is, amount of protein formed in the body per 100 gram of food protein consumed. Along with this, digestibility and availability of amino acids also matter. So addition of these essential amino acids in foods is gaining importance in order to increase its biological value and to meet the daily requirement to the human being. Best examples of use of amino acids as additives include fortification of rice with L-lysine and L-threonine, supplementation of bread with L-lysine, and fortification of soya and peanut protein with methionine. Main thing is that you must know the limiting amino acid in any food products. Specifically, our staple foods contain cereals and pulse. You should know that cereals are lacking in lysine and pulses are lacking in methionine. So if these are supplemented with these limiting amino acids, then it will be very good for good health. Synthetic amino acids are used also for chemically defined diets, which is completely absorbed and utilized for nutritional purposes in space traveling, in pre and post operative states, and during therapy of maldigestion and malabsorption syndrome. Regarding fortification of minerals, you know that our food is abundant source of minerals, but even then, mineral deficiency is existing in large group of population. So, fortification of iron, calcium, magnesium, copper, and zinc is required to meet the daily diet, daily requirement of these minerals. Iodization of salt is very important, specifically in iodine deficient areas, just like valley areas where soil is lacking in iodine, ultimately leading to crop deficient in iodine and population suffering from iodine deficient goiter. So for that, iodization of salt is done on large basis to avoid iodine deficient goiter existence. Iodized salt contains 45 micrograms per gram of salt, and recommended daily intake is 150 microgram of salt. So iodized salt, if taken in amount of half to 3/4 of teaspoon of iodized salt, if taken in daily diet, it will meet the requirement of iodine. Nitrite salt is also used for pickling and dry curing of meat. It consists of common salt and sodium nitrite in the amount of 0.4 to 0.5% with or without additional potassium nitrate. So overall, fortification is the practice of deliberately increasing the content of an essential micronutrient, that is different vitamins and minerals, including trace elements in a food, in order to improve the nutritional quality of the food and provide a public health benefit with minimal risk to health. So after such a long discussion, we can reach to a conclusion that food additives are inevitable part of processing food industries. Potential health hazards. Oh, potential health hazards because of synthetic food additives are a matter of great concern, and need for production of safer food additives and upgraded analytical techniques to ascertain use of food additives under permittive under permissible limits. In short, we can conclude, we can say that today food industry can't stay without use of food additives in order to provide safer and more nutritious foods, greater choice of foods in the market, and lower priced foods for the consumers. Thank you. Thank you.